Hello and welcome to the Spandex and Wine podcast. I'm your host, Robin Hackney, and I'm so happy that you're here. This podcast is a place for conversations about balancing a healthy lifestyle and being happy. More specifically, happy hour. Together, we'll explore all things wellness and wine. I hope you learn a little, laugh a lot, and along the way, know you're not alone on this balanced wellness journey. Ready to jump in? Pour something in your glass that makes you happy because it's time for Spandex and Wine. Well, hello and welcome. Thanks so much for being here. Today I have my friend, wine sister, and colleague in the wellness industry, Morgan Williams. Morgan is a passionate life and empowerment coach for all women. Her true calling is helping women develop tools for improved self-care and tapping into their intuition to guide them to clarity, confidence, and fulfillment in their lives. She's also a leader, coach, and mentor to over 100 wine guides with Traveling Vineyard. She's a certified yoga instructor and has over 16 years of experience as a public educator. She's a single mom that loves to travel, listen to various kinds of music, read, and cook. Morgan offers ambitious women remote one-on-one coaching and group coaching, live workshops, and yoga events. I'm so happy to have with me my friend, Morgan Williams. Hello, Morgan. How are you?
I'm great, Robin. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm super excited to have you here. I've been watching your journey on Facebook and being your wine sister as well. And I'm just blown away by everything that you do.
Oh, well, thank you. It's an honor to be chatting with you here today and to be able to discuss some of these things in a bit more detail.
Yes. Okay. So what people don't know is we are both in the wine business with Traveling Vineyard. And then we both have a wellness side of our business, but you go a little bit further and you have a life coaching as well. And I know you started as an educator. Can you just kind of give us some background on you, your story, and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first and foremost, I'm a single mom, right? That I feel like that is like my number one role and my number one title and the most
I don't know how you do it. Yeah, I don't know how you do it. Wow, that's just good job.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I would say that that's definitely the most important hat that I wear. And I think really a lot of this transition that I made from being an educator to moving into life coaching was really a way of life, like a lifestyle change. I was very, very, very burnt out. And what I realized is that, being a single parent, my daughter is really the catalyst for the shift. I was going into school. I taught for 16 years in a pretty challenging urban school. And every day I would come home and not be able to show up as the mom that I wanted to be. Mm-hmm. Right. So that was the big reflection piece for me there is like, she deserves so much more. And then, I turned the mirror on myself and realized like, I didn't like feeling the way that I felt in my own body and my own skin every day, right? Like living in this constant state of what felt like fight or flight to me. I thought, I work really hard. I'm an optimist and I want to feel like I'm enjoying living my life if I'm going to work this hard. So how can I turn the work into work that I really love and that feels better for me?
And what a great example for your daughter to see too. I know when I was making my shift from corporate world to fitness, my boys were 9 and 11, and I thought, okay, this is a good thing for them to see. So you're being a wonderful role model for her too.
Thank you. I assume she'll see it more when she's older, but I do think she sees it now. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're entering the teenage years. Is that?
She just turned 13 like 2.5 weeks ago. Yep. We are there.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's a whole nother topic that maybe we could get into. So tell me, let's talk more about what it is that you do. I know you have workshops. I've seen you just post amazing things, and you have group calls and coaching. You have one-on-one, you have retreats. You just do it all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the fun of it, right? Is like, it's creating what feels really aligned for my lifestyle. So I definitely work one-on-one with clients. So if you've never worked with a life coach before, I think, exploring the idea of doing that is great. And I love working with clients one-on-one. I feel like the shifts that can happen are so profound.
Hmm.
And it's a little bit different than seeing, say, a therapist, because it's more goal oriented and forward facing than like healing the past and dealing through heavy trauma. It's like, all right, this is where you are now. This is where you want to go. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And we work through the limiting beliefs, and we work on mindset, and we work on self-care and really connecting to our intuition and all of that stuff. And so I absolutely love working one-on-one with women, mostly specifically.
Hmm.
And then I also offer group coaching, and I think that that's really special in that there's such a powerful beauty in connecting in community with other people, like-minded people. I think one of the most potent things I can say about group coaching is it really helps us dissolve the shame
Oh,
around what
nice.
we're
Yeah.
going through, because we
Hmm.
realize that we are not alone, right? And you can be supported by more than just the coach, but by this entire community of other women that are walking the same path as you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like that you use the word aligned. And I think that's your group, isn't it? Radiantly aligned.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Because I think when people figure out how to get in alignment and notice when they're out of alignment, like it takes a while to recognize that and how huge that is and how wonderful that can feel.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that when I think of the terms radiantly aligned, it's like joyfully, right? Like that's the radiance piece, walking in your purpose. And I think that that was like my goal when I shifted, is like, not only do I want to be doing meaningful work and making an impact and helping other women feel aligned with their purpose, but doing it with such joy, and being
Yeah.
excited to wake up every day in the work that I do.
I know. Sometimes I feel guilty and I get to do what I do. But that's another word, that purpose is, it's so key to happiness, in my opinion, even if your purpose is just something that you have that one day, instead of, because sometimes it's hard to see the big picture and to think about, oh, I need to, write 5 books and do this and, reach all of these people. Just find your purpose for that day. So I love that you use that word too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it makes the journey that much more meaningful. You know what I mean? It's like, and maybe it's a matter of like, what can I wake up and do today that's 10% better than what I did yesterday or last week, right? Because we can't show up perfectly every day, like you said. That word alignment, it's like sometimes we realize we're out of alignment, and I think that is a lot of where like the work is and where the magic is like, okay, I have days like that, right? I realize
Hmm.
that, like, uh-oh, something's off. And it's like, I get back to center. I get back to alignment so much more quickly than I used to, right? Like something that may have derailed me for like days or weeks before. It's like, nope, this is just a moment. And I get to
Hmm.
come back. I get to come back to who I know that I really am and who I desire to be, and just refocus and realign at any moment that can
Yeah.
change.
So did you yourself use a life coach?
Yes. Yep. So, and that's very much, also a catalyst, and what led me to this path is
Okay.
I knew I was unhappy in my career. I knew I loved being an entrepreneur through Traveling Vineyard. And I thought, what else can I do that allows me to use my skills and feels really good,
Hmm.
um, as a career? And so I hired a coach, and
Yes.
I've worked with several since then, but I just saw how powerful and meaningful the work was and how much it impacted my own life. And I thought, this is gold. This is where it's at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Traveling Vineyard. So how does your wine business fit in with what you're doing? I mean, I know as far as logistically, okay, you're your own boss. You can, do whatever you want to do, which is great. I love that. I'm the same way. But how do you ever pair things together?
Yeah, so sometimes I do what I call wine and align classes. I used
Ah,
to just call it yoga and wine, and then I thought wine and align really resonated
love
more with
that.
me.
Yes.
And I haven't quite mastered, because I think that yoga can be a practice that it can really be about coming back to self and digging a little bit deeper. and you want a clear mind to do it. So I haven't wrapped my brain around like the instructors that like sip in between poses and all of that stuff. So the way
Yeah.
I structure it is really like, come for the yoga class. It's an all levels class, accessible to everybody, right? Like I want yoga to
Yes.
feel accessible and like a tool that anybody can use. And then we just sort of socialize and have a glass of wine and some snacks afterward. And that's sort of how I facilitate that. I feel like some people think that yoga is really intimidating, you know,
Yeah.
and they're like, oh, I'm bad at yoga. I'm not flexible. And I'm like, honestly, all you have to do is show up with an open mind,
Mm-hmm.
it's really not about being flexible. It's about, for me, I didn't start my journey with yoga to get fit. If I wanted to get fit, I would go work out at the gym or attend a class or something like that. A more intense fitness class, I should say. I came to yoga for its impact on my mental well-being and
Yeah.
the anxiety relief and things like that. And so I think these wine and align classes can be fun in that people who might otherwise feel intimidated by the practice are like, oh, this is like a fun girls' night, so they
Right.
get this really meaningful class that's suitable for beginners. And then there's some time to socialize and make connections and meet people and have some fun afterward as well.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like the wine tastings, like take the intimidation out of it, take the stuffiness out of it, and
Yeah.
just make it be a space for everyone, that everyone can enjoy the wine, everyone can enjoy yoga. And it cracks me up when people are like, oh, I'm not flexible, I'm not good at yoga. I'm like, that's why you should be there. You're the person.
Right. Yes, I can say my flexibility improves with the practice every time, right?
Mhm.
And it's also not my goal to like stand in a headstand or anything like that. It's my goal to slow down, recenter, recharge, and anybody can do that.
Yes.
you know.
Yes.
And the
And a
people who
lot of
say
people
I
need to do
can't
it.
quiet my brain down are the ones who should definitely try it.
Yeah, the people that skip out on Shavasana, I'm like, you're the one that should be here.
That is the best part.
It's true. So what I know you are really big on self-care as well. And I was curious what one simple habit you would suggest people start, or one self-care act that is just a must right from day one.
Yeah, I was thinking about that a little bit because I have a whole menu of different things that people can
Right.
pick from, and I think what came through to me when I was thinking about this is really like we live in a hustle culture. We are go 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 all the time. I think as at least in my past experience and in a lot of the experience of some of the clients I work with, we have learned to associate our productivity and our worth. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, if I'm not doing, I'm being lazy. And if I'm being lazy, I'm unworthy.
Yes.
And so one, that's not true. And two, I think if you have zero self-care, in your life currently, I think that I'm going to remind you that we are human beings, not human doings. And my invitation would be for you to start by carving out 10 minutes a day of just being. You know,
Okay.
what you do during that time is up to you, but no phone, no cleaning, no activities, is like, and I would invite you to start your day that way, right? To sort of set the tone. For me, it often looks like journaling
Mm-hmm.
or, listening to a guided meditation, or something like that. But it doesn't have to be this hour-long thing every day because everyone's busy and we're like, I don't have time for that. And I say, if you don't have time for self-care, you need it twice as much, right? But
Yeah.
it's like really just carving out 10 minutes, start there and then increase it gradually, of just being, and
Yeah.
see what thoughts come through.
Right.
Because a lot of times the thoughts that come through when we're just sitting quietly are where we can really create a lot of clarity around, oh, I do have a goal, or oh, this is working, or oh, this isn't working, and just allow yourself time to unplug and rest and start small.
I love the way that you don't label that,
Yeah.
because a lot of people would say meditation, and then that is kind of like, oh gosh, no, I could never do that. I could never just sit there. But for you to say, just carve out 10 minutes to do, just to be,
Agreed.
everybody can do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. I think it's all about accessibility. Like, these are all tools that I have accumulated in what I call my proverbial toolbox over the years.
Mhm.
And some things work better for me than they might work for somebody else, right? It's all very unique. Other people, it might be a high intensity HIIT class, that feels like, of course, I wouldn't consider that just being, but that
Yeah.
might feel like self-care. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
And so it looks different for everybody. And I think if you can learn to just be for a few minutes a day, you'll get to know yourself a lot more and be able to actually discern and figure out what it is that you like and what you don't like.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah. And I know that you also, I mean, you exercise as well. I've seen you do lots of videos and lives when you're walking. And I see that, I love to walk. I see it as a moving meditation. I think it's a wonderful time. So tell us about what daily regimens you do.
Yeah. So like I said, meditation and journaling are huge for me in terms of like my morning rituals.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I would say walking and yoga are my favorite forms of activity. Um, I go back and forth. There was a time years ago where I was into like high intensity movement 6 days a week, and my personal body just did not respond well to that.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind, I thought that I was doing what was best for me. And then I started like having, it's like the pendulum swing of like, all right, well, you're doing this, but now you're having other problems that are sort of, I had too much going on and I wasn't resting enough. So yeah, I love to walk, particularly outdoors. I'd say here in the Northeast, spring and fall are my favorite times to walk before it gets really humid. Um,
Yes.
and then in the winter months, I'll go to the gym. I'll do some cardio. I will, lift some weights from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
I would say I teach a lot more yoga than I take, living in a rather small town. It's hard to
Yeah.
find classes
Yeah.
that I can take that I'm not teaching. But intentional periods of rest are
Yeah.
important. Again, I have a daughter, so I get up with her to, in the morning to see her off to school, but I've started to give myself permission to like go back to bed and set the alarm for a little bit later once I know she's on her way, because
Nice.
my body and the way that I show up best in my emotional and mental well-being is with an adequate amount of sleep. I think sleep is one of our most basic self-care needs too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it makes a huge difference. I tell people all the time that not getting a good night's rest is worse than a hangover.
Absolutely.
It's really bad. Yeah. So it's interesting so you were an educator, you talked about getting your daughter off to school and then maybe taking a little more time for you. I'm just curious, your opinion of, do you think school starts too early? Do you think the kids are ready mentally and, alert enough at that time?
At her age, no. I think yes, I think it starts too early.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, there have been studies when I was still teaching about this, and our school district was actually going to look into that, starting the elementary kids, which was the level that I taught earlier, so that the
Uh-huh.
middle school and high school could go to school later. And they never made that switch. But now that I am raising a teenager, I'm like, that would have been really wise.
Yes.
That would have been really wise. She's up really early, and then almost every day after school, she's like taking a nap. And then it's like this spiral, right? Of like, of then she's up later, up really early. And so, I let her roll with it because I know her body's changing,
Oh,
hormones
yeah.
and all of that stuff. But yeah, no, I think middle school and high school kids could definitely benefit going to school a little bit later in the day.
Oh, gosh.
I'm sure those
Absolutely.
teachers would not love that, but I think the kids, it would be great.
Yes. Well, yeah, if they would learn at a better rate too, that would be good. Yeah. So I just love everything that you're doing, everything that you're putting out there, just all your positive vibes and energy. It's felt. So I want you to know that you're
Thank
doing great
you.
work. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
it. I think one of the things I try to share too, though, is when things aren't going so well for me personally,
Hmm.
and how I navigate that, right? Because I think social media can lead us to believe that everything is, glitter and unicorns. And it's like,
Hmm.
there needs to be this like realness of what actually goes on with people. And then like, hey, I tried this tool and it helped,
Yes.
So like, oh, okay, the next time I'm feeling crappy or, upset or disappointed or guilty, I have this tool that I can use because this coach shared it with me when she wasn't feeling the best.
Yes. Oh, that's huge. And for you to be able to pass that on to your daughter too, and for her to be able to learn those things at this age, don't you wish that you could have learned that when you were her age?
100%. 100%. I always say, like, none of this work is indicative of everything's great. This
Yeah.
work is around the fact that, like, no, life happens, and sometimes things don't feel great. And how do I navigate it differently than I used to?
Right.
You know?
Right. So how do you deal with, I didn't mean for this to be like a whole conversation about your daughter and how you're parenting, but I was just curious with social media and boundaries with social media with a teenager, because I didn't have to worry about that. My boys are 30s now. So I was just curious how you handle that.
Um, we don't have like super solid like rules
Okay.
around here. You know what I mean? I think that pivoted. I mean, she has a phone, right? Mostly because we're in the land of no more landline phones. Like, I don't even
Right.
have one. And so she got a phone at a fairly young age because she was coming home for about 15 minutes. There was this gap of time when she got off the bus and got home and I got home. And so she needed it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I used to really beat myself up about how much time she spent on it. And then the pandemic hit. And I realized this is her, at the time, it was
Right.
her only social outlet.
Yeah.
And so I had to sort of loosen my expectations and sort of the mom guilt around that, because the whole world had just shut down. She was 9 and trying to figure out, like, what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
and so to be able to communicate with friends on FaceTime or, on Snapchat or whatever was it. That's all she had. Mom,
Yeah.
can this friend come over? And I'm like, no, honey, like, we're in a lockdown. And if somebody gets sick, I'll never forgive myself, back in the beginning when it was like
Right.
everything was super unknown. And it was like, so, I think it's no different than me being on the landline phone when I was
Yeah.
13,
Right.
really wanting to talk to my friends, right? And my mom being like, Morgan, get off the phone. Like, there's call waiting. It's fine. I'll let you know if somebody calls you.
You're
um,
younger than me. We didn't have call waiting.
yeah. Right. Right. The busy signal. Now you don't even have a choice. I think you just automatically have call waiting.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, I think that I view it through the lens of, it's her social outlet. I mean, and she's not like posting things on Facebook and, like, it's really just like Snapchat and FaceTime and things like that. And half the time they're just FaceTiming on
Yeah.
Snapchat.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do tend to have a more laid back approach to that because of the time that she
Sure.
went through with the pandemic.
Yeah, I can't even imagine that. That's a whole nother podcast topic. Again, I didn't have to do that. So thank God. God knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to know, what do you have coming up on your schedule, your calendar? What cool workshops and retreats and things do you have?
Well, so definitely some cool things coming up. I am currently working with, a cohort of my group coaching experience called Ignite Your Confidence. And I think I'm going to be renaming it and doing a rebrand in 2024.
Okay.
So making some changes,
Mm-hmm.
that just, it's like, okay, I've done a couple of rounds of this. It's awesome. The women get so much value out of it. How can I add and make it better and new and improved? Right.
Right.
So most of my offerings right now are headed for 2024. So doing that, I'm always working with one-on-one clients. So if anyone's interested in exploring that, I'm that's sort of like a continual enrollment, right? There's no hard fast deadline with that. And then I'm super excited because just like last week launched information on my first retreat,
Mm-hmm.
I want to say women's retreat, but it's not solely just for women. Working with a very well trusted colleague in the travel industry who we know
Okay.
through Traveling Vineyard, who has found the perfect place for a yoga retreat.
Nice.
Yoga coaching will be in Sicily. So
Ah,
getting to explore wine, and it's actually as well. And it's actually 2 sisters that own this property. One is the winemaker, and one I think runs the bed and breakfast type venue. And what I'm really excited about with that is that it's a female owned business in Sicily.
oh
So
my
that's
gosh.
slated for the end of June. Registration is open, and there's a $400 early bird discount for people who register by November 30th of this year. So I'm looking forward to that, taking flight, heading
Yes.
to a beautiful part of the world that I've never seen before. And knowing that I'm in trusted hands with the
Yeah.
travel aspect of it so that I can focus on my zones of genius. Um, so there will be daily yoga, there will be daily like group sessions, there will be optional one-on-one coaching for people if they're interested in that. My mom's going to be coming along. She's also a yoga instructor and she's a Reiki master. So there will be optional Reiki
Oh.
sessions as well. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. That's exciting.
Oh, that's so cool. Your first one, your mom gets to be there. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, sort of a collaboration. Yeah.
I love that. Oh, cool. Cool. Well, I want to ask you about wine too, but how can people find you to get that information
On the Sicily
on
trip?
the retreat and your coaching and
Yeah.
workshops?
So I have a link tree, which you can put in the show notes, and that has access to my website if you'd like to stay connected by signing up on for my newsletter, because that's where, any new information, new programming that I'm doing will be delivered straight to your inbox. There's
Okay.
also a link to join my Facebook community, Radiantly Aligned with Morgan, on there. There's information on booking a clarity call if you're interested in talking about one-on-one, and there's information on the trip to Sicily as well.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah, so all housed in one place.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'll make sure I put that in the show notes then. Okay, wine. So let's go red, white. Do you like red or white wine?
Well, I'm going to say it depends on what I'm eating.
Yes.
But I shared this at tastings. It's funny. I, as a early 20s person, I was a sweet wine drinker because aren't we all when we first started drinking?
Yes.
And then I moved to dry reds, and I would go to the wine store, and I would pick a cute label because I didn't know anything. And as I started learning about food and wine pairing, I realized that the way I cook and the way I order off of menus at restaurants really pairs better with white wines. So,
Okay.
yeah. So usually I'm ordering a white. I love a good Sauvignon Blanc,
Yes.
Pinot Grigio, an unoaked Chardonnay. But if I'm having red wine, a lot of times it's just in isolation, like I'm just having a glass of wine because I don't prepare a ton of like meat and pasta and those heavier dishes. So
Yeah.
usually I'm just enjoying a glass of red because it's delicious, but not so much with food.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's interesting too. Yeah. Because a lot of times I think of red wine because I think of meat and vegetables. So yeah, that's really interesting. And I'm assuming that like how far in your area do you travel for your wine tastings? If someone's interested in having you come out, like what area are you?
Yeah, so obviously I'm in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, and I go up to an hour typically without even thinking about it.
Okay.
Like I met someone at a wine tasting last weekend who lives 3.5 hours away, and I was like, is it near such and such town? And she was like, yeah. And I'm like, well, maybe I could go see one of my wine sisters and do the tasting and then give my wine sister all the bookings.
Yes.
So it's one of those like, it might take some planning and coordination. And if I can turn it into a fun weekend with somebody who I adore, I'll make it happen too, because I feel like we're providing people with an experience in that. And the more the merrier, So
yes. Yeah.
Yeah. But I definitely travel up to an hour without even thinking twice about it.
Okay. And well, first of all, I love that you said sharing the wine tastings with your wine sister, the bookings, because I think people don't realize that we are so good at that at Traveling Vineyard is helping each other, sharing with each other, supporting each other. So it's something that's very unique about our business, I think.
I would agree. And I think it's probably the reason I've stuck around for almost 7 years now, right? Because it's not one of those companies that has this mentality of like heavy competition and all of that. Like we're a big family. It doesn't matter whose team you're on. We all love each other no matter what.
True. Yep. It's true. So on your link tree, is your wine information there too?
It is not. I have a separate link tree for wine. So I don't know if you have the ability to post two different links, but I can send you mine directly.
Okay. Yeah. And I'll post that in the show notes too, then in case anyone's interested. Okay.
Yeah. Especially if they're in the area.
Wonderful. Oh gosh, I love it. I would really appreciate if we could do this again after your retreat, because I feel like you're going to be so charged up and I know you're going to have more on your schedule to share.
Absolutely. And hopefully with you.
That'd be great. Well, Morgan, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. It was great talking with you.
Likewise, Robin. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. Bye. That was awesome. A huge thank you to Morgan for taking time out of her schedule to be here and share herself with all of us. So thank you to you all for taking the time to listen. All right, here are the takeaways. 1, purpose makes the journey meaningful. 2, the magic is in the alignment. 3, yoga isn't about being flexible, just show up. 4, we are human beings, not doings. 5, carve out 10 minutes daily to simply be. What's created is clarity. Everyone can do it. 6, intentional periods of rest are important to be able to show up at your best. And 7, learn tools to navigate around life's challenges, either with the help from a coach like Morgan or through self-discovery. I also wanted to let you know that my Healthy Body Challenge will be starting very soon, and I hope that you will be joining us. This is our 10th year of doing this challenge, and it started because we all decided as a group, those that worked out at my studio, that we were going to not gain weight over the holidays. We just wanted to stay as healthy as we possibly could and not put on extra pounds, because the average person gains between 7 and 8 pounds between Halloween and New Year's. So we're going to take that 8-week span, and each week we will build a new healthy habit with our nutrition and with exercise and all things wellness. There's going to be some extra things sprinkled in as well. And if you sign up by October 21st, you'll also get a 5-day plan to kickstart your healthy journey. So that'll be included as well. You can find information or click the link in spandexandwine.com. You can also find me on Instagram or Facebook at spandexandwine.com, or feel free to send me an email at info@spandexandwine.com. I hope you decide to join us. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoy this podcast, it would mean so much to me if you take a few seconds to do each or all of the following. First, follow or subscribe to Spandex and Wine. It'll help you so you don't miss an episode, and it'll help me because you won't miss any episodes. To do this, you'll just go to the podcast, click subscribe or follow wherever you are listening. Look for the plus sign or follow button, and this is one of the best things that you can do for the podcast, so thank you. If you'd also be willing to give a 5-star review, that would be amazing. And lastly, please share an episode with a friend or 5 to keep the love going. I appreciate you. Thanks.